Some of the unique challenges of Mountain View over other schools in the district are we're a heavily populated Title I school, populated with a large refugee population, and we have kids kids coming from all over the world. We have 33 different languages spoken here. Some of these kids have experienced trauma in their lives that you and I will never experience, and have never been in a learning environment to speak of. Many of them were born in refugee camps, so their access to educational services are nil. We've had it as complicated as, and this has happened twice in the last year, where their parents were murdered in the middle of the night. Sad as it is, it's a reality. Every year we struggle to meet the AYP, the Adequate Yearly Progress, or the UPass standards. Part of it is, we do need to make changes. That's warranted by our scores. And so we do have some leeway on how we approach that. And we try different things. But the biggest thing is you're looking at the data. And when the data doesn't speak in favor of what you're doing, then you need to make changes. And it was a real gradual change that we made to where we're at now. And we went from a very holistic, whole language approach to reading that isn't very effective with kids that don't come to you already reading. And the teachers saw that, So I followed them for a couple years and just watched carefully and looked and presented other ways as we went along. But it was always the staff decision as to where we were going. I may have influenced them in some ways, but I truly respect their knowledge and their expertise.
One caution is we always...
And when I look at my history with the staff, I felt it was important for me to be involved in services as much as they were. So, when they went off to an in-service, I went with them, because then I could speak to the whole path that we're taking. Hey, do we have the money to do this? Do we have the support from central office? All those things that are critical for success for teachers starts with the principal.
So we'll just take it one student at a time. Emrock, looking good. And these are all Stacy's kids. Wendy Dominguez.
This isn't a school that you can coast. And I think
Galvez.
oftentimes in Title I schools, you get teachers that are either extremely dedicated, or you get teachers that are looking for an environment in which they don't get challenged by parents. And this isn't one of those places, so we make that known. So the staff that we have here all want to be here for all the right reasons.
What I know. So we're going to practice doing those two things again today as we read more about the stranger. And school leadership, as the research has stated, has one of the greatest impacts on student overall success, which is kind of unusual because you don't think leadership, a principal, would actually work with students, would have that kind of impact. But the research says just the opposite. The students that have a strong leadership and have a strong teacher have an excellent chance of making a lot of progress in that grade level. And especially when you're working with at-risk student populations, they can't afford to have those off years. They don't have that time. They need to have every day, every minute has got to count for them.
But I think more than that, it's an exciting place to be, and that has nothing to do with me. It's, the culture of the school, the type of kids that we have, the type of teachers. It's a real reinforcing, it's a caring environment. Well, looking at, my leadership style, I try and be positive because that always works for me. I'll do most anything for someone to, say, hey, you've done a good job or whatever. We have a positive behavior support team here that it meets in terms of school discipline and the climate of our discipline policy, and it is really tries to stick to the positive.
Well, of course, I think we should always include that praise is
This is the cheapest. This is the cheapest and most efficient. Yeah.
So one of the things we came up with several years ago is Starbucks.
The Star Store is something we have here at Mountain View, and we've had it for years. And kids earn Starbucks, and it's all for good behavior. We have the teachers and the staff, all staff members have Starbucks to give to kids, and it's basically catching the kids being good. And then once a month we have a store that is operated by volunteers from the community, and each class gets about 15 minutes to come in and spend all their points.
And we have everything, books, school supplies, clothing, school uniform, any number of things, except we don't use candy.
How about the checkers?
So the kids are real motivated to earn the Starbucks.
Perfect attendance and no tardies in Mr. Care's class. If I can have the following students stand up. Kinalete. Carlos.
Soaring Eagle is a monthly assembly program that we have that reinforces all the things that kids are doing in school. Not only behavior, but the academic portion, as the teachers are identifying kids that maybe had an improvement in rate in reading.
Tyra Lee. Improved academic effort throughout the school day. Way to go.
I do a reading thing with the kids on a weekly basis, and I read them a story, and we give them some popcorn. And it's also a time for me to recognize kids for different things. And I think it's important for principals to not only deal with the behavior problems in a school, but also the good things and the good kids that are what they're doing, and learning their names and knowing more about them.
In the panoramic view from the top, I preferred to stay where I was.
The Principals Award is another opportunity. We identify a child in each classroom in the school that's the outstanding academic performer. It doesn't mean he's the smartest kid in the school, but the kid that's worked the hardest. And again, those aren't the kids that I'm going to see in my office all the time, but they've had that opportunity and they get reinforced for a good behavior.
You guys got to move fast. Where did Jada go? I've got her card.
We do a walking at recess program, and it not only helps us physically in that, you get busy and you're in your office and you aren't moving around. Now at recess in the morning for 15 minutes with the lower grades and 15 minutes with the upper grades, we're out walking with the kids. Well, now I've got kids that now we've got to come up for something for the 21-mile club, because these kids are doing it every day. And, again, the research shows that the more you get the kids involved physically, the better off they are academically.
Oh, whoop.
And it's fun because I'm also dealing with there's that third group of kids that may not be great academic performers or behavior problems, but, how do I get to know them? And they like walking around with the principal or the classroom teacher.
Now, sound it out. Word? Helped. Very good. From the
In
top.
a lot of other schools I've been in where kids come to school with a basic knowledge of reading, we can't make that assumption here. So we spend a good deal of our time, developing those attitudes about reading, the importance of reading, and then just exposing them to many opportunities to respond and to practice their reading.
Okay, Kim Wei, by yourself?
As far as getting books to kids, we do it several ways. Our school trust lands monies for the last 7 years we've put exclusively in the library. So we have the largest collection of books in a elementary school library than any other in the district. And that's a big one. We also have incentives. We have business partners that bring books and are always looking out for our kids. So we provide as much as we can, and it seems to pay off.
Any first-star needs today?
Something I learned from, I think it was Joe Robinson at a conference a couple of years ago. And it just made sense to me, because what she talked about is going into each classroom, and it's sort of what you're asking is there a first hour need? Is there something going on in either your life as a teacher or one of your students or many of your students that is going to affect you negatively in that classroom environment. You know, if you've been up all night with a sick child, had one of the kids in your class come to school late and didn't get breakfast. So it's finding out what is going on that is going to negatively affect kids. And by doing that, the teachers know that they can always count on seeing my sad little face every morning coming around, you know, just to ask that question. And, you know, I don't always get a response. You know, sometimes it's just everything's fine, just leave me be. But other times, hey, Sally and Steve didn't get breakfast. Could you see that they get breakfast? So I walk them down, make sure they have breakfast. It may be, you know, a teacher says, hey, this child has been absent too many times. Could you make a home visit? So when I get finished with my walk around, then I visit with the school counselor or the youth advocate or our behavior specialist, and then we talk about it. And we say, let's look up that attendance is a problem. Let's go over and visit that family and find out what we can do to help them get the kids to school. It's an exciting place to be. It's, you know, the culture of the school, the type of kids that we have, the type of teachers. It's a real reinforcing, it's a caring environment.